After mixing vocals across hundreds of songs, I found that there are 3 common vocal problems that always seem to pop up. The first is muddiness. I'm talking about an excessive buildup of low frequencies that mess with the vocal's clarity and make it feel darker, bloated, and amateur. The second is harshness. Those higher piercing frequencies that often hurt the ears and sound very unpleasing. And the third is masking. This is when other elements that compete with the vocal overtake it, pushing it into the background and affecting its overall clarity in the mix. I've dealt with and continue to deal with these problems across every vocal mix that I do, and chances are you do too. But luckily there's a new plugin that just came out that makes dealing with these common issues easier than saying Peter Piper picked a peck of pick. F it. Allow me to introduce you to Smooth Operator Pro from Baby Audio. This plugin breaks sounds down into their individual frequency components and changes their intensity dynamically over time. This plugin is particularly helpful for taming harsh resonances, controlling low end, and unmasking sounds, among many other common uses. In this video, I want to explore how we can use Smooth Operator Pro specifically to treat those 3 common vocal issues that I mentioned earlier. Along the way, I'll show you what this plugin is capable of and give you some good insight as to whether or not you should add it to your arsenal. Before we dig in, if you want to check out Smooth Operator Pro for yourself, I've left links to it down in the description below. And if you plan on picking it up, be sure to use my discount code 5piece to save an extra 10% off the purchase price. But let's start by exploring how we can use Smooth Operator Pro to clean up vocal muddiness. Let me play you this vocal which has some excessive low end buildup and is producing a less clear and muddy sound.
If there's some high, there's some low, who's around, we don't know. If you're here, I'll let you watch.
We can very quickly and easily use Smooth Operator Pro to clean this up and produce a more high-end sound with less bloating. With an instance of Smooth Operator Pro in our vocal chain, we could simply play the track and increase the threshold setting here, with the goal being to produce some gain reduction in the muddy frequency range, which is typically in the lower mid-range, around 100 to 500 hertz. Let me reset this, play this, and see what we can do.
If there's some high, there's some low, who's around, we don't know. If you're here, I'll let you watch. If there's some high, there's some low, who's around, we don't know. If you're here, I'll let you watch.
Now this already is producing an excellent starting point for us. You can hear how it's already cleaning up the muddy frequencies, and you can see that's really focused on that area that I identified earlier, just by chance. However, it is a delicate balance. You notice that when I pushed this threshold very far, it started to really drastically exaggerate the reductions, not only affecting the muddy frequency range, but also areas above and below it. That being said, I want to make sure that it stays focused on this 100 to 500 range in particular, and what we could do to adjust it is use the low and high preserve settings here. By adjusting these, we're ultimately able to focus the reduction purely into the area that we want while not affecting the frequencies outside of it. In other words, these frequencies are going to be preserved in exactly as they are, not reduced, and only the area we want to reduce will be affected. Let me quickly reset these, play this again, and sculpt this reaction.
If there's some high, there's some low, who's around, we don't know. If you're here, I'll let you watch. If there's some high, there's some low, who's around, we don't know. If you're here, I'll let you watch.
And with these settings in place now, you can see that I've focused the reduction here, helping alleviate some of the reduction that was taking place between 500 and 1000, so not reducing that area anymore. And because of that, I was able to drive the threshold up even further and produce a more significant amount of gain reduction, particularly on that muddy frequency. Now, just to make a point, if we want to exaggerate a frequency reaction even more, we can always double click on the graph to create a node, and we can bring it down further, which will then produce even greater gain reduction. For example,
if there's some high, there's some low, who's around, we don't know. If you're here, I'll let you watch.
Now, I'm not necessarily going to do that in this case, but if your vocal has some significant issues, you can always do that. This may, however, come into play in future examples. That being said, we can further build upon this by looking at some of the other options in the global menu here, starting with the focus. This menu helps the plugin determine what frequencies exactly should be targeted for smoothing and shaping. With detection, we could use either a peak or RMS setting, so peak being the loudest level is going to trigger a reduction, whereas RMS is going to look at the average level and reduce from there. For me, I personally rely on peak most of the time, but you may want to shoot this out and try RMS in your own situations. Detail ultimately sets the resolution of the spectral detection, with a lower detail setting being more broad and a high detail setting being very fine, the latter of which allowing it to target very specific frequencies. Isolation controls how wide of a frequency range is affected around the detected problematic frequencies, from pinpoint accuracy to a broader, smoother effect. Let's play this and adjust some of these settings in the focus menu to see how we could shape the sound further.
If there's some high, there's some low, who's around, we don't know. If you're here, I'll let you watch. If there's some high, there's some low. Who's around? We don't know. If you're here, I'll let you watch. If there's some high, there's some low. Who's around? We don't know. If you're here, I'll let you watch.
Now, I think these settings are a bit more appropriate, increasing both of them to make this a little bit more targeted and, no pun intended, focused. Now, if we want to better control the actual gain reduction in terms of how quickly the reduction takes place and lets go, among other settings, we can look to the comp menu. We can ultimately manipulate these to control the overall reaction as we see fit, having access to a ratio, an attack, a release, and even a knee setting. So, for example, we may want to speed up the attack and also speed up the release to produce a snappier reaction. Or we may want to smooth things out and have a slower release and a slightly slower attack. And of course, we could do other things like adjust the knee, increase the ratio, and so on. So let's reset these and see if we can find a better reaction for the compression.
If there's some high, there's some low. Who's around? We don't know. If you're here, I'll let you watch. If there's some high, there's some low. Who's around? We don't know. If you're here, I'll let you watch.
So I've sped up both of these settings to produce a bit of a snappier reaction, as I mentioned. I did shoot out the knee and I'm leaving it on the hard setting, but overall you can tell this is producing a bit of a quicker reaction that reduces that problematic frequency range, but also lets go of it rather quickly and doesn't keep it as suppressed as it initially was. Now in this case, we don't necessarily need to use the imaging or the sidechain menu. This will come into play a little bit later in this video, but we are going to want to play with the output. You can see that we have a mix setting here if we want to just do a dry-wet blend of the two signals before and after. We can also audition to hear only what we're removing through this process.
If there's some high, there's some low. Who's around? We don't know.
And most importantly, we have an output here, which is going to allow us to compensate for the difference. These lower frequencies are quite heavy, and by reducing them, we're probably losing some volume at that same time. So we may want to add a little bit of volume after the fact to make up for what we're getting rid of.
If there's some high, there's some low. Who's around? We don't know. If you're here, I'll let you watch. If there's some high, there's some low. Who's around? We don't know. If you're here, I'll let you watch.
So adding about 3.5 dB seemed to make up for what we were losing. It definitely has a different character and presence, a little bit of a different tonality, a lot more higher end and obviously a lot less muddy, which is exactly what we're after. So let's quickly do a before and after comparison with and without, and I'll also put it into context so you can hear the full difference.
If there's some high, there's some low. Who's around? We don't know. If you're here, I'll let you watch. If there's some high, there's some low. Who's around? We don't know. If there's some high, there's some low. Who's around? We don't know. If you're here, I'll let you watch. Will you catch me before you go?
So now let's switch it up and see how we can use Smooth Operator Pro to treat a harsh vocal in this case. Let me play you this example, which you're going to hear has some sharper, harsher frequencies throughout.
Next time you need me, I'm being Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me, Next time you need me, I'm being Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me,
Now, it certainly could be worse, but you can definitely hear some of that harshness and even nasally type of presence coming through, especially on sibilant phrases, S's, T's, and things of that nature. So let's use Smooth Operator Pro to fix some of this. And because we already talked about a lot of these settings in depth, I'm going to move a lot quicker in this example. First thing we're going to do is drive up the threshold to produce some gain reduction and clean up specific problematic frequencies.
Next time you need me, I'm being Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me, Next time you need me, I'm being Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me, Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me,
Now, this is a cool starting point, but you can see that it's not only affecting the upper frequencies where that harshness is really living, but it's also affecting some of the lower frequencies. And this might be helpful in some situations, of course, but in my case, I don't necessarily want to affect it. I'm not as concerned with muddiness on this vocal as I am with the harshness itself. So to focus this reaction, I am going to use the low and high preserves once again to make sure that we're really targeting it into the area where that sibilance and that harshness really lives.
Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me, Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me, Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me. Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me. Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me. Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me.
So I ultimately made a few adjustments, ultimately focusing the reduction between 3000 hertz and 8000 hertz, really where that sibilance lives. And I did that specifically because lower around that 2K range, I really felt like it was affecting the vocal's intelligibility. You'll also notice I particularly emphasized a harsher frequency being around 5.8K, producing a slightly more exaggerated reaction in that area in particular. And because of how focused it was, I did notice that it was just de-essing a little bit too hard and producing a bit of a lisp at times. So I ultimately backed off on the threshold to produce a smoother reaction that avoided that negative artifact from overdoing it. And overall, you can already hear how this is producing a smoother, less harsh reaction. However, we can adjust it a little bit further in the focus and comp menus once again, better targeting certain frequencies and the general response and the overall reaction. So let's adjust both of them right now.
Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me. Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me. Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me. Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me. Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me. Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me. Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me. Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me.
And overall, it's sounding better. I actually broadened up the detail a little bit, but then also got a little bit more focused at the same time. And once again, I sped up the attack and release so that we got a bit of a snappier reaction overall, which I think sounds a little bit more dynamic and transparent at the same time. Now, once again, because we're taking away frequency material, we're probably going to need to add a little bit of output to compensate for what we're losing.
Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me. Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me. Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me. Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me.
So adding back roughly about 2.3 dB seems to roughly match to where we started. Once again, let me put this into context. We could take this out and put it in and see what kind of difference it's made.
Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me. Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me. Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me. Next time you need me, I'll be in Thessaloniki. With a thing that's freaky and she always need me.
Definitely a lot smoother. So now let's take a look at our final example, which is going to focus on unmasking a vocal that's competing with melodic elements of an instrumental. Let me quickly play you this example so you can hear the clashing that I'm talking about, specifically between the main chorus and the instruments that are part of this track.
On my way to the shuttle, taking no risk, no buckle. If something goes wrong, I fear I might not make it, but I did try. At the end, light shines at the tunnel. All bets on me like 00. Haven't lost my hope. If it rains like this, I know the sun gon' shine.
So not the absolute worst, but I always want the vocal to be that dominant upfront element, and at times the melodic instruments are creeping up and interfering, masking it a little bit and preventing it from being as clear and pronounced as it could be. With that in mind, we could put Smooth Operator Pro onto our melodic instrument track, as I want that track to be the secondary element and the vocals in this case to be the dominant element. In other words, the vocals are going to trigger Smooth Operator Pro to make room for the vocals. However, there's a few things that we need to do to get set up. First things first, we need to make sure that this plugin recognizes the vocal and makes room around it. I've already already created a bus on my vocal called main Vox sidechain, as you can see. So I'm going to go to the key input of the plugin and select that bus. But in order for the plugin to recognize that bus altogether, we need to go to the sidechain menu, which we haven't used before, and we need to enable the sidechain or turn it on. Now, to get a little bit more advanced, we can go to the imaging menu. By default, it's on left-right mode, but we want to switch it to mid-side mode instead. I also want to take the MS control and bring it all the way down so it's 100% focused on the mid signal only. The reason why I'm doing this is because vocals, typically when they're recorded with one microphone, which they usually are, they're going to be a mono signal. As you can see here, it's one source as opposed to a stereo signal or two sources. Building on that, you can see that vocals typically live in the middle. This is panned dead center. So ultimately, by setting things up this way, we should be able to make any reduction that takes place a bit more transparent and focused, since it'll preserve the side information of my instruments and only reduce frequencies that overlap with the vocals in the mid channel. Now, with all this in place, we can go back to our setup menu, which is where we typically start, play our track, and drive up our threshold to produce somewhat of a gain reaction across the whole spectrum.
On my way to the shadow, taking no risks, no buckle. If something goes wrong, I fear I might not make it, but I did try. At the end, light shines at the tunnel. All bets on me like 00. Haven't lost my hope. If it rains like this, I know the sun gon' shine.
So technically we can leave this as is, or we can go ahead and sculpt this further just like we did with the other examples. And that always starts with the low and high preserves to focus the reduction once again and omit certain frequencies that maybe don't need to be manipulated. I can also build on that by creating a node somewhere in the frequency band, particularly between 2 and 5K, as the vocal intelligibility is really in this range, and you can see from the previous playthroughs that it wasn't producing much of a reaction here. So by increasing this area, I'll ultimately produce more of a gain reduction reaction, and that should allow the vocal to be that dominant upfront element. Let me quickly reset this, play it, and see what we can do.
On my way to the shadow, taking no risks, no buckle. If something goes wrong, I fear I might not make it, but I did try. At the end, light shines at the tunnel. All bets on me like 00. Haven't lost my hope. If it rains like this, I know the sun gon' shine. On my way to the shadow, taking no risks, no buckle. If something goes wrong, I fear I might not make it, but I did try. At the end, light shines at the tunnel. All bets on me like 00. Haven't lost my hope. If it rains like this, I know the sun gon' shine.
So these settings are definitely improving that reaction, allowing it to be more focused and also exaggerating the reduction in that mid-range once again where the vocal is most dominant. So with these settings in place, we can now take a look at the focus and comp settings once again to further adjust exactly what's being targeted and how exactly it's reacting to the material.
On my way to the shadow, taking no risks, no buckle. If something goes wrong, I fear I might not make it, but I did try. At the end, light shines at the tunnel. All bets on me like 00. Haven't lost my hope. If it rains like this, I know the sun gon' shine. On my way to the shadow, taking no risks, no buckle. If something goes wrong, I fear I might not make it, but I did try. At the end, light shines at the tunnel. All bets on me like 00. Haven't lost my hope. If it rains like this, I know the sun gon' shine. On my way to the shadow, taking no risks, no buckle. If something goes wrong, I fear I might not make it, but I did try. At the end, light shines at the tunnel. All bets on me like 00. Haven't lost my hope. If it rains like this, I know the sun gon' shine.
And that overall is just sounding smoother. I've obviously changed a few of these parameters, speeding up the attack, reducing the ratio, even speeding up the release, but still letting it linger a little bit, and also creating a little bit more of a broader focus with the detail, but also still keeping it very pinpointed and accurate. Now, unlike the previous examples, I don't necessarily want to change the output. I want this to be a purely reductive process, but depending on how it feels, you can always walk back on the mix setting to achieve a more transparent result. Let me quickly audition what we're removing, and I'm also going to put it into full context with all the instruments, not just the melodic ones, to see exactly how far we've come.
On my way to the shadow, taking no risks, no buckle. If something goes wrong, I fear I might not make it, but I did try. At the end, light shines at the tunnel. All bets on me like 00. Haven't lost my hope. If it rains like this, I know the sun gon' shine.
As you can hopefully tell, Smooth Operator Pro makes solving these common vocal issues very simple while offering a lot of flexibility at the same time. I always say do a free trial so you can evaluate it yourself. You can do so via the links that I've left down in the description below, and don't forget to use my discount code 5Ps to save an extra 10% if you decide to buy it. And if you're like me and enjoy Baby Audio's plugins, you may even want to take a look at their plugin collection plan, which is a monthly subscription that gives you access to not only all of Baby Audio's plugins, but also the offerings from their sister brand, Denise Audio, as well. Best of all, with your subscription, you get to choose one plugin to keep indefinitely from the collection every 6 months. So it's not just renting, it's really about trying all of their plugins and then keeping what you like at the end, which is a great option for newcomers to both brands as well. But after watching this video, what do you think of Smooth Operator Pro? Can you see yourself using it in your own mixes? Let me know in the comments below. And speaking of Denise Audio, if you want to see another video I did about their Perfect Room 2 Reverb plugin, click the card you see on screen and watch my 5-step reverb process using that plugin specifically. If you got value out of the video, please give it a like so we can reach more people like yourself, and don't forget to subscribe if you're new to see more mixing and mastering tips like this in the future. I appreciate y'all for watching and look forward to helping y'all again soon. Peace.
5.